The three-body TV series, adaptation of the first of the three-book trilogy, finished back in February 2023. It's now June. There's one scene which really stayed with me, and I've been thinking since then why it did. During episode 5, the cop, Da Shi, and the scientist, Wang Miao, visit a restaurant. Da Shi, the cop, to the right, and Wang Miao, the scientist, to the left. On one level, it's a visit to a restaurant and a chat between them that pushes the plot forward. On another level, it is a collision of two ways of perceiving life. This is the setup to the scene. Before this scene, the characters know of each other, but are not close. Upon first meeting the cop, Da Shi, who is investigating the suicide of scientists across the country, Wang Miao is very annoyed to see Da Shi attempting to smoke anywhere near his home. By himself, Wang Miao has been on his own shocking adventure which reveals to him the crushing reality of there being a force beyond his comprehension. The whole world has flickered in front of his eyes, seemingly just for him. Da Shi has kept on his tail and finds Wang Miao crestfallen. What is up with this man? Da Shi can see something terrible has happened to Wang Miao. He does not yet know. They are strangers, soon to become more than this. How do these two very different people come to an understanding? Yeah, to hear that Wang Miao implores for Da Shi's assessment. He yearns for his approval. Da Shi offers some support. Da Shi eats his food, whilst Wang Miao's food is left uneaten. He's too stuck up in his head to even realise he's hungry, as we shall see soon. We couldn't see the desperation on his eyes before. Here we see it for the first time. The wild hair, the bags under his eyes. He wants his partner, Da Shi, to feel the same sense of horror that he does. He thinks, what does this man consider important? Why doesn't he care about this? Da Shi's flippant response of Miao, never, is frustrating for Wang Miao. Da Shi addresses an issue of taste in his food. He is in the moment with his food, responding to the feedback of his senses. The significance of this later will become clear. Wang Miao pursues the same line of questioning, desperately trying to get Da Shi to comprehend his horror. I never look at stars, he said. He, like any human, looks at the stars, just doesn't engage with their reality on the level Wang Miao does. Wang Miao gives up and drinks. And Da Shi speaks of his life's concerns. Family, children. Only now, it's funny to notice, I've just noticed this, does Da Shi actually start to drink quickly when he speaks of his family. That's what's important to him. He now clutches at the straws, repeating the propaganda that he heard at the ETO meetings. Low energy hand gestures. Look at his hands. They're weak. He's not convinced. He's repeating rather than thinking for himself. Da Shi senses something. He has a highly advanced emotional intelligence, and he knows when someone has conviction. This isn't it.
当然我知道一个终极定理，
终极定理 rules of thumb.
那就是邪乎到家必有鬼。什么狗屁
Wang Miao looks down and says, "Rubbish, Gopi." He dismisses it. Here we have fallen into it, one of the major differences in their colliding world views, that of their thinking styles. Wang Miao is what some people call a slow thinker. This is not to say that he's slow or stupid, but more that he's an effortful thinker, and he thinks about what he deems to be logical. The thinking he does, or at least the thinking he admits to, will be fully conscious and data-driven, involving premises he holds, deduction and induction, whereas Dasha is what people call a fast thinker. His thinking is largely subconscious, effortless, and draws on emotion, rules of thumb, and folk wisdom built up over the long history of humankind's evolutionary experiences, also known as instinct. Both characters are capable of engaging in these different types of thinking. What I am noting here is the tendency expressed in their words and actions. This also rings true with our experiences as human beings and of ourselves. We all tend to fall into one of these two groups, at different times perhaps. Some people more one than the other. I know which one I am. How about you? And it is this instinctual folk wisdom that Wang Miao is rejecting as silly. It does not form a part of a definition of evidence in his worldview. He's going to take some convincing from Dasha. Dasha draws out the conclusion. There must be someone behind this.
人捣鬼不是人。如果你稍微有一点科学常识，你就无法想象是什么样的力量可以同时完成这两件事情。
Wang Miao here draws on his knowledge of science, thinking slowly once more.
我根本都无法想象，这都不是什么超自然，这是超什么我不知道。
反正我还是那句话，扯淡，邪乎事儿我见多了。
可是我真的很想知道，倒计时的尽头到底是什么
？Wang Miao wonders his experimental curiosity, and his thirst for fact knowledge causes the desperation the ETO think that it will cause within him. And here, Dasha expresses the fears that Wang Miao has been gripped by.
能是什么？地球毁灭，人类灭亡，或者说现在什么物理学不存在了，人类科学不存在了，那又怎么了？人类回到农耕社会，大不了原始社会，钻木取火，耕田打猎，怎么了？老祖宗能那么过，我们也能这么过，对吧？
Fear in Wang Miao's eyes recedes. And I just love this direction of going to the cutting of the chopping blocks. Remember what we have just heard. And then we hear it. The sound recollects our collective human history of cutting down trees for fire. It also speaks to Wang Miao becoming more aware of his surroundings. In his panic before, he was residing inside his mind. Wang Miao is starting to notice things more. Dasha lets the point settle. Here, someone of lower emotional intelligence might go further and berate him. He is listening to his instinct to let Wang Miao consider what he has said.
如果你觉得这件事情没有那么重要，你不会一直跟着我，对吗？他们为什么要摧毁我们的科学？
Now, notice that Wang Miao's questions are not frantic. They're more measured than before.
除了要摧毁我们的科学，他们还要摧毁什么？
我没看错你。
Dasha brings back things to the plane, the level of the interpersonal.
我说你不敢自杀是夸你啊，吃完饭走啊。去哪儿？送你回家。
Eat up and let's go, he says. But this is not enough for someone like Wang Miao who thinks slowly. He still yearns for answers. He cannot stand this limbo Dasha has laid out. A limbo in the middle of two worlds where his concerns have been ameliorated and not yet answered.
再喝几杯，回去再睡觉啊。
然后呢？
然后你第二天总得上班吧？
Dasha continues eating. He's taking care of his physical needs. Still, Wang Miao has not eaten anything. His mind still too unsettled to pay attention to his own stomach.
离倒计时的结束了，只剩下1103个小时。
哎，去他的什么倒？
Dasha throws his arms up in the air as if the answer is obvious. The daily cycle of life, in its rhythms and repetitiveness, is the answer to him. But to Wang Miao, this returning to normality is akin to anticlimax. This knowledge he has gained, these questions he has, are meant to lead him to some crescendo. This nothingness, this return to normal life, seems incongruous to him. How can I go back to the way things were before?
其实吧，汪淼，我告诉你，你现在首先要站直了，别趴下。
Dasha reminds him, stand up straight.
咱才能聊别的。
志强，能不能把你知道的真相都跟我说？我求求你了，行吗？
咱们俩是难兄难弟，我什么都不知道。起码在作战中心，我也是一个伙计。
Dasha levels with him. He's in the dark too. They're in the same boat. I'm just a turkey too.
你知道伙计代表的是什么吗？
不知道，但是我知道，他们越是让你害怕什么，你越不能让他们如愿以偿。
The topic of the turkey metaphor had been raised by Wang Miao before, and Dasha had no comment to it. Now, having had time to unconsciously think through its meaning, Dasha has realized something he hadn't even known at the time. This is the wondrous thing about a sensing, thinking fast strategy. The conscious can concern itself with other things, eating, sensing the taste of the food, whilst the mind unconsciously ponders the question posed.
现在他们针对你，所以我绝不能让你轻易的死了。
An offer of companionship. Dasha has identified a source of Wang Miao's frantic panic. As we can all clearly see, Wang Miao is facing this terrible realization all by himself. Whilst Dasha certainly can't understand the horror of the realizations Wang Miao is going through, he can acknowledge what this means for Wang Miao and what might help him.
来，
Dasha looks away. He's uncomfortable, as we all do. When speaking about emotional truths, he has offered Wang Miao his companionship through words and actions, offering himself up for rejection, potential embarrassment. But now there's something more in Wang Miao's eyes, more than horror. Something behind the eyes, observing the beauty of another human being, acting in righteousness, kindness, and strength. A tenseness in the pit of his stomach recedes. Perhaps he's hungry after all. They need each other, these two. Imagine, if you will, a world made up of fast thinkers, all like Dasha, but would there be any medicines without thought processes needed for deduction? At the same time, imagine, if you will, a world full of slow thinkers. There will be plenty of material development, sure, and yet who would care? That is why this scene sticks with me. It tells an entire psychological drama, that is the two worldviews and their engagement with each other in just 10 minutes. Just look how much there is to say about it. There is so much more that I could say. It's a masterclass in transferring the brilliant pages of the book into a screen.